Lila Merritt discovered the recipe book on a drizzly Thursday in early March. She ducked into Whiskers and Wares, a secondhand shop that smelled of cardamom and warm iron hoping, only to escape the rain. The book lay on a crooked shelf between a chipped teapot and a brass doorknob. Leather the color of steeped tea, no title on the spine, pages gilded faintly around the edges. When she opened it, she found nothing but blank, cream-colored leaves. She might have put it back had she not noticed this single sentence etched in impossibly tiny script near the binding. Flavors bloom when hearts stir together. $4 later, the book was tucked under her arm like a promise. Lila had moved to Maple Street 2 weeks earlier, freshly divorced, the co-op apartment painted in colors she hadn't chosen yet. She unpacked the last box that evening, balanced the book on the counter, and brewed chamomile tea to fill the emptiness hovering around the newly assembled furniture. When steam fogged her glasses, she flipped to the first page, hoping words had appeared the way lemon juice darkens over a candle flame. Still blank. She touched the page with the tip of her finger. "What are you waiting for?" she whispered. There was a knock at her door. She startled, almost guilty, as though someone had heard her speaking to paper. Opening it, she found a teenager from the unit across the hall, hair tufted like a startled bird clutching an empty mug. "Hi," he said, pushing wire-rimmed glasses up his nose. "I'm Sam. My mom started gingerbread and realized we're out of brown sugar. Could we borrow half a cup?" Lila invited him in, happy for the company. While she measured sugar, Sam's eyes landed on the blank recipe book. "Cool cover," he said. "Antique? Found it today. Bit of a disappointment there's nothing written inside." Sam reached for it. "May I?" The moment his fingers joined hers on the letter, letters seeped onto the page like ink coaxed from invisible wells. Both of them gasped. In looping script, a title formed. "Spiced lentil comfort soup serves 2 souls minimum." Beneath the title, ingredients assembled themselves. Red lentils, onion, tomato, turmeric, cumin, a squeeze of lemon. The instructions appeared one line at a time. Share the chopping board. Talk while onions sweat. Let stories season the broth. Sam's eyebrows nearly met his hairline. "Your book is alive." Lila exhaled a laugh that felt rusty from disuse. "Apparently, it needs an audience. You should come over," Sam said, excitement crackling. Sam's mother, "Make the soup with you." They crossed into apartment 3B, where the air smelled of molasses and soft rock played from a tinny phone speaker. Sam's mother, Dr. May Lau, pediatrician by day and ferocious weekend baker, welcomed Lila with a smile crinkling her eyes. When they placed the book on her counter, words brightened, paragraphs lengthening like dough rising. Together, they rinsed lentils, diced onions, and compared scar stories. May's from a childhood bike crash, Lila's from slipping on stage during a university musical. Sam confessed he wanted to study astrophysics, but feared leaving his widowed mother alone. While the stew simmered, the book's margins sprouted tiny illustrations, constellations twining with cinnamon sticks. The soup turned russet, fragrant, comforting. When they ladled it into mismatched bowls, Lila tasted something beyond cumin and lemon, a warmth she hadn't known since childhood Sunday dinners. The recipe faded from the page, but another line remained. "Second course awaits when 4 cooks share a stove." May tapped the leather. 4, huh? We'll need recruits. Over the next week, word quietly spread through the 9-unit building that something magical was bubbling on the 3rd floor. Curiosity satisfied its own hunger, and soon volunteers lined up. Mrs. Dolores Hernandez from 4A was the embodiment of sass at 76, treading the hallway with a silver cane tipped by a carved swan head. Kai Okafor, a jazz guitarist who practiced at inconvenient hours, pledged his nimble fingers. Mr. Patel, a retired cartographer, offered spices he'd imported during years of roaming the Silk Road, his closet, apparently a portal to markets unseen. The second gathering happened on a Sunday afternoon in Lila's kitchen. 6 neighbors squeezed between countertops, laughter ricocheting off tile. The book, placed reverently in the center, bled ink at the edges until words saturated the page. Cardamom-kissed spiral buns requires 4 voices singing. Sam groaned melodramatically, "Please, not singing." But Mrs. Hernandez lit up. "I was a contralto in the San Jose Cathedral Choir in '68. Who knows? La cucaracha. They sang, off-key but spirited, as dough slithered into spirals and cardamom perfumed the air. Every note seemed to underline the instructions. When they hit the chorus, the book shimmered, projecting faint watercolor scenes above the stovetop. A crowded Mexican bakery, a North Indian wedding, a Swedish winter breakfast. All places where cardamom had traveled and nested in tradition. While the buns baked, Kai confessed he was debating selling his guitar to afford rent increases rumored to be coming. Mr. Patel traced invisible lines across the countertop, recalling a night sky over Rajasthan, where he decided maps could be drawn with music instead of ink. The stories braided like strands of dough. By the time the oven pinged, everyone smelled like cardamom and nostalgia. Again, the recipe vanished after completion, leaving one cryptic note. Some dishes feed bellies, others feed villages. Assemble 8 hearts for the Feast of Resilience. 8 hearts meant nearly the entire building, minus Mr. Bellamy, the reclusive landlord, who lived on the ground floor behind perpetually shut blinds. Lila, who'd lived there only 3 weeks, somehow became the organizer. She slipped invitations under every door. Saturday, 5 p.m., communal cook-in, rooftop, if weather permits. Bring an open mind. She figured if the enchanted book wanted numbers, better to give it a crowd. Saturday arrived, bright and breezy. They lugged portable burners and folding tables up the narrow stairwell to the roof, where a skyline met cracked tar paper. Mrs. Hernandez commissioned Sam to carry her lawn chair. Kai provided rhythm on bongo drums. Even Mr. Bellamy emerged, surprise written on his face as though sunlight was a forgotten acquaintance. When the book opened, pages fluttered like a startled bird until they settled on an inky spread, paella of patchwork lives, one pan. Many paths, 8 cooks minimum, begin with silence, end with song. Rice, saffron, mussels, peppers, chorizo, or vegetarian substitutes danced in the ingredient list. Mr. Patel and May led seasoning. Lila and Kai chopped vegetables synchronously. Mrs. Hernandez rinsed mussels, telling a story about catching clams with her late husband during their honeymoon on the Pacific coast. Even Mr. Bellamy, who admitted he hadn't cooked since his wife passed 10 years ago, took charge of stirring, his eyes misting from more than onion vapors. As the paella sizzled, golden threads of saffron tinting the rice, the setting sun painted their faces amber. Sam started humming the lullaby his mother sang when he was small. May joined softly. The book's margins filled with musical notes, nudging others. Soon, hesitant voices melded into an improvised choir. Mr. Bellamy's baritone surprised them all, rich as aged wine. When the rice crust crackled, the coveted sokarat, the book glowed and projected shimmering outlines above the pan, not places this time, but possibilities. They saw themselves repairing the rundown lobby, painting murals, planting herbs in the back alley, watching eclipse projections on bedsheets pinned between buildings. The images flickered like film strips, then dissolved. Beneath the emptying plates, another message surfaced. Roots deepen where tables grow, but storms gather. Prepare the next dish with courage, for walls will shake. The storm arrived faster than any of them expected. On Monday, envelopes slid under each apartment door. Notice of impending sale and renovation, rents to double within 6 months. Some units would be vacated sooner for necessary upgrades. The signature, Alistair Bellamy, owner, Bellamy Properties. The building that had just begun to feel like a living room shuddered. That evening, a tense meeting convened in Lila's place. Mr. Bellamy sat at the far end of the couch, avoiding eye contact. His slender frame looked smaller without the glow of the paella pan. "Can't fight numbers," he muttered after May confronted him. "The market's the market. I'm retiring to Florida." Developers made an offer. Lila set the enchanted book on the coffee table like a gavel. "We're not leaving without cooking again," she said lightly, though her heart pounded. Pages flipped by unseen wind and landed on a spread darker than previous ones. Ink the shade of midnight stew. Stew of standing stones feeds a neighborhood. Minimum, everyone who calls the street home. Optional, truth as thickener, humor as garnish. Below, the instructions were specific and overwhelming. 60 ears of corn, 15 onions, 3 cauldrons. Serve with unity. I did quick math. That's like a block party. Mrs. Hernandez slapped her cane on the floor. "Then we throw one. Show developers. Maple Street isn't for sale." Sam shook his head. "Mom's hospital schedule." May interrupted. "We'll manage shifts." All eyes finally rested on Mr. Bellamy. He rubbed the worry lines in his forehead and sighed. "Even if you cook for the moon, contracts are signed." Lila met his gaze. Come stir the pot with us anyway. If the magic can write recipes, maybe it can rewrite endings. He looked away, but didn't say no. The planning launched into feverish motion. They canvassed houses up and down Maple Street, brandishing sample cardamom buns as both proof and persuasion. Families, dog walkers, skateboarders, they agreed to join. The local grocer donated produce after Sam demonstrated the book's trick by having two employees lay fingers on its margins. A recipe for cucumber lemonade appeared before their startled eyes. Friday night, 2 weeks later, the block transformed. Extension cords snaked from porches to power string lights. Borrowed picnic tables formed a serpentine path. 3 borrowed restaurant stock pots squatted over portable gas burners. Someone blasted salsa music. Teenagers chalked hopscotch galaxies on the asphalt. When Lila placed the recipe book on a plywood podium, more than 100 residents circled. They pressed their fingertips to the pages, kids with sticky Jan hands, grandmothers with arthritis crooked fingers, Mr. Bellamy with trembling ones. Ink pooled like rainwater in a gutter until words emerged, sprawling across both visible and invisible surfaces. Overhead, lines of script hovered luminous in the twilight, readable to all. Stew of standing stones. If you can read this, you are an ingredient. Instructions. 1. Share a fear while peeling onions. 2. When corn kernels splash, speak a hope. 3. Stir clockwise for memories, counterclockwise for dreams. 4. Salt until tears taste like courage. 5. Serve strangers first. They become neighbors with the second helping. Silence followed, broken by Mrs. Hernandez declaring, "Well, get peelin'." Tables became confessionals. A young mother admitted fear of raising a child alone. Skateboarder twins worried they'd never afford college. Mr. Bellamy confessed his dread of loneliness, more suffocating than any tropical retirement. Others spoke hopes, community gardens, safer crosswalks, music festivals, rent stability. With each utterance, the stew darkened from pale to robust amber, releasing notes of thyme and chiles. When the pot reached rolling boil, Lila felt vibration underfoot, a collective heartbeat. The book's pages flipped, fluttered, then detached, transforming into paper birds that soared overhead, scattering soft light like fireflies. Gasps rose everywhere. The birds circled the block and settled on door frames, their wings unfolding into parchments. Petitions, it turned out, already inscribed with legal language advocating historic status for the building and rent stabilization for longtime residents. Signature lines lay empty. May laughed incredulously. Magic writes petitions now? Truth is thickener, Mr. Patel quoted. Ink pens materialized, origin unclear. People queued, ladling stew into biodegradable bowls as they signed. Even kids scribbled blocky versions of their names. When all parchment birds carried signatures, they folded themselves again and glided to Mr. Bellamy, landing on his shoulders like weightless epaulets. His eyes watered. "Looks like I've been served," he murmured, half amusement, half awe. The old man took a ladle, filled a bowl, and offered it to his nearest neighbor, a college sophomore he'd never spoken to. He accepted the petition stack, promised to present them to the city council, and eventually tore up the sale agreement in front of cheering witnesses. Fireworks someone had illegally procured crackled overhead. Music erupted, a mashup of Kai's guitar riffs with a brass band that appeared spontaneously from apartment 2D. Hours later, after benches were folded and cauldrons scraped clean, neighbors lingered, unwilling to let the night end. The enchanted book, now coverless, the pages, still adrift as birds lay on the podium, blank again. Lila touched the spine. Nothing happened. She felt no disappointment, though. Its purpose seemed joyfully served. Life did not transform overnight, but it shifted. Work crews, volunteers rather than developers, fixed the creaky red stairs. A mural of interlaced recipes and constellations blossomed on the western wall. Kai's brush, guided by Mr. Patel's map outline. Mrs. Hernandez hosted balcony bingo accompanied by Sam's astrophysics lectures about supernovas and hope. One Sunday a month, kitchens merged. No instructions appeared anymore, but the community had learned the cadence by heart. Share a fear, speak a hope, stir both directions. On a soft summer evening, Lila wandered to the roof with 2 mugs of tea. She found Mr. Bellamy seated on a folding chair, gazing at the painted skyline. He'd traded Florida brochures for seed catalogs. Rumor held he planned a rooftop garden irrigated with captured rain. He accepted a mug with a shy smile. "I kept 1 page," he confessed. pulling a folded scrap from his jacket. Words glimmered faintly. When stories simmer, walls dissolve. Lila traced the sentence. Still works? I think it's just ink now, he said, though the letters pulsed once like a wink. They sipped tea in silence. Down below, laughter floated from open windows. Pans clanged, somewhere a violin tuned. Farther off, the city murmured in its own sprawling language, unaware of a block where neighbors had turned magic into method. Lila closed her eyes, breathing cardamom-tinged wind, and felt the recipe settling inside her. 1 part openness, 1 part courage, endless pinch of generosity. Cook together, serve warm, repeat.